Hey everyone, welcome to the channel for another Escape from Tarkov video. This time, focusing on some tips and tricks to help you get ahead of the competition when patch 12.6 drops, the servers are wiped, and everyone is reset back to square one. According to the developers, the next patch is nearly done and it's been confirmed that we're getting a full character reset along with it. Like with the 0.12 patch before it, which added the hideout and post-raid healing, this next patch is packed with some game-changing new additions to the Tarkov experience. This will also be the first fresh wipe with the new weight and stamina mechanics, which were a game changer in their own right, and we're going to see a massive change to the flea market, which is moved to level 10 and only allows players to sell items that are found during raids. Obviously, a ton of things are going to change when the patch drops, and I'll cover that all in more detail when it hits. In this video, I'll be going over 10 quick and simple tips to how you should approach the game when the wipe hits, covering things like where to farm weapons, keys, quests, and hideout loot, as well as general tips to save you money and make you profit. So with that intro out of the way, let's take a look at some tips for success when starting a fresh wipe. To start off, I'll state the obvious. When you're just starting out after a wipe, you'll need to focus on completing quests in order to gain fast experience, level up, and unlock the traders. This last part will be 10 times more important since you can no longer buy trader items on the market. However, there's another extremely lucrative benefit of finishing these quests as soon as possible. You can cash in on selling items needed to complete these same quests back to other players on the flea market. In the early game, things like Salawa medkits, gas analyzers, flash drives, and 3M armor always skyrocket in price, because many players don't bother with questing and would rather wait until they unlock the flea market and buy their way through many quest objectives. In the mid game, these high demand items change to things like computer parts and hardware components, but the same principle applies. If you finish these quests quickly, you can turn around and sell those items back to other players at a higher price when you find them in the raid. The hideout was first added in the beginning of the 0.12 patch, and when it first dropped, many players, myself included, didn't really have faith that it was worth the steep investments to upgrade it. To be fair, when it first launched there wasn't nearly as many crafting options, but if I knew then what I do now, I would have gladly went broke to max out the hideout as early as possible. There's a ton of benefits to upgrading the hideout. You can craft the best meds, great ammo, grenades, tons of quest items, and extremely valuable things like sugar, moonshine, and magazine cases. Upgrading the hideout also lets you heal faster, gain more experience, level your skills faster, and creates a source of passive income through things like the Bitcoin farm and scav case. There's no denying that it's a steep investment in either time or rubles to upgrade it fully, but it really pays off at the end and offers tons of quality of life benefits as well. In this upcoming wipe, the new flea market mechanics are going to make crafting quest items like computer parts in the hideout even more important if you're looking to save money. Plus, just like in the last tip about quest items, the sooner you upgrade the hideout, the sooner you can start selling those upgrade items back to other players for big profit. There's a ton of different items you'll need to complete these upgrades, and I'll link the official wiki page in the description of this video so you can see a complete list of requirements for each module, and then you'll know what to look out for. The two best maps to farm most of these items are Interchange and Reserve. On Interchange, you should look in the big stores and construction areas inside the mall, and on Reserve, you can find hideout items in pretty much every single building if you look carefully. Out of all of the maps in Escape from Tarkov, Interchange and Reserve have the highest sheer volume of loot on them. Shoreline may be the biggest, but it's a winner-take-all deathmatch, whereas Reserve and Interchange have so much loot spread out over such a big area that everyone can kinda get something nice and not have to scrap to the death over it. These two maps also have a crazy number of weapon crates, and Reserve has literally dozens of weapon racks that can spawn AK-74s in pretty big numbers. In the early game, I like to spend some time running through these maps and digging through as many weapon crates and gun racks as possible to grab whatever I can get my hands on. Then I pile these up in my stash so I have real guns to work with when questing, not pistols or shotguns or knives, which are only going to frustrate you if you run them as primary weapons. Between a few crate runs and killing scavs, you should be able to stockpile plenty of early game weapons like the ADAR, AK, and SKS. You'll have to figure out where to find the crates, but I have some loot guides for both maps that should help you with that, and I'll link those in the description. Adding on to the last tip, Reserve is the place you want to go to stockpile ammo for those guns that you've been looting. The map is littered with the 120 count cardboard boxes full of PS, PP, BP, and BT ammo used in the 5.45 AKs, and this is honestly the only viable source of good ammo for the AK-74 until you can level up your traders quite a bit. You can also find BS and 7N39 ammo here, which is top tier stuff, as well as 7.62 PS and a few different kinds of 7.62 by 54R ammo in large quantities. Pretty Pretty much every building on the map and most of the fighting positions with sandbags and gun emplacements can spawn the small and large boxes of ammo. If you keep your eye open and check a lot of spots, you can sometimes walk out with over 500 rounds of BT ammo, which fits easily into your container and will give you a huge advantage when everyone is running level 3 or 4 armor at the start of the wipe. Of course, that AK full of BT ammo isn't going to do you any good if you can't hit anything through the iron sights. With that in mind, it's a good idea to know how to make a simple, cheap AK with a red dot sight in the early game. There's two main ways to do this. If your AK has a dovetail mount like the AK-74N, AK-74M, and AK-MN, you can just buy the Cobra reflex sight from proper level 1 and put that on the side mount. It might not be pretty, but it's cheap, and in my opinion, anything is better than iron sights if you have the option. For AKs without a dovetail rail, you can swap the handguard and gas tube for the Ultimac railed gas tube sold by Skier level 1. This thing is super cheap and has a top rail for sights. At level 1, your best bet for a sight is the Burris Fastfire from Peacekeeper level 1. You need the sight and the mount for it, sold for about $100 total. This setup works with any AK, including the semi-auto Vepr, and I honestly prefer it over the dovetail sight. For a final finishing touch, swap the wooden parts for the black polymer parts from proper level 1 to improve the stats, and you've got yourself pretty much the best weapon build you can make from levels 1 to 10. Next up, I want to talk about keys and the new best way to find them. Keys are extremely important in Tarkov because they let you access the most high value loot areas and therefore make bigger profits and progress quicker. They're also needed in many quests, so it's a good idea to always be on the lookout for them. Most keys used to be limited to spawning on dead scavs or in preset static spawn points, but jackets now have an extremely wide selection of possible key spawns, and they actually spawn at a surprisingly high rate. I found everything from shoreline keys to reserve keys, labs keys, and so much more in jackets. If you're lucky, they can sometimes make you millions from a single key drop. With this in mind, keep an eye out for any blue or brown jackets and always try and loot them if possible. Some of the best places for this are customs and shoreline. You can find jackets all over the place on customs, in the dorms, and all of the work areas. And in shoreline, the village near the swamp has something like 20 jackets scattered around the various buildings. You might not always get lucky, but check those pockets and pray to RNGesus, and before you know it, you'll have a full shoreline key set. This next tip is definitely debatable, since many players have a lot of success making huge money on scav runs, which is a good help to your progress and overall economy in its own right. However, you also don't get any experience for your main character when you play as a scav, so you don't level up as fast. The way I look at it is that I would rather stick to my PMC during the early stages of the wipe so that I level up as fast as possible. If you think about it, playing a scav raid after every PMC raid essentially cuts your experience gains in half, and that is a pretty popular playstyle. Like I said, this one is debatable, and some people really enjoy playing as a scav. If you want to level faster though, stick to your PMC so you don't miss out on any experience. Peacekeeper has always been the first trader you can get to level 2 as far back as I can remember, and because of this, I think it's really smart to get his requirements filled as soon as possible so you can access his very useful level 2 items. He is unique because he has no reputation requirements for level 2, just level 10 and a certain amount of money spent or sold through him. This makes him easier to level in the beginning since you don't need to do any quests for him. My strategy to get this done quickly is to sell items to him during the early game, because this raises his money requirements. He gives you a pretty fair price for your items, but he does pay in dollars, which kind of complicates things. However, he has so many useful items at level 2 that it's good to have these dollars available to buy handguards, sights, guns, ammo, and mods from him once he levels up. If you want to be cheesy, you can also buy the M9A3 pistol from him in large quantities and then just sell it back to fill his money requirements while only losing about 30% of your money spent. At the end of the day in Tarkov, there's two things that will often decide your fate: your ammo and your medical supplies, and whether you had enough of them. Just like I recommend stockpiling ammo in the early game, medical supplies are equally important. In the early game, before you can buy good meds or craft them in the hideout, I take every medkit, bandage, painkiller, stim, and splint that I can get my hands on in the raid. These items aren't expensive individually, but like ammo, you need them in every single raid. If you can mitigate those costs by looting them from scavs, med bags, or other players, you'll save a lot of money in the long run. As you level up and can craft better meds, you can be more choosy about what you pick up, but even at high levels, I'm always looking for IFAKs, morphine, ALU splint, and stims. At times, playing Escape from Tarkov sort of devolves into a hoarding simulator, because you need to stockpile supplies to play the game, quest items, crafting items, and hideout items, and it all needs to fit into the space that you have available in your stash. That being said, once you have your feet under you, it's a good idea to get some cases. For the early to mid game, I would say the most important cases to get a hold of are a scav junk box, meds case, and ammo case. The scav junk box is currently sold at therapist level 2 for about 1.4 million rubles or 100 dog tags, and is the best place to store your hideout, quest, and crafting loot until you need it. This one seems pricey, but it makes your stash organization so much easier. For the meds case, you can trade at therapist level 2 for syringes and Vaseline, and you can also get one as a quest reward from therapist. I like having this thing so I can hoard medical supplies without eating into my stash space. For the ammo case, mechanic level 1 will trade you this for 5 blue gunpowder and 1 green gunpowder. It's much easier to stockpile ammo and keep track of it all when it's in one place in this case. Finally, I recommend setting out to get a key tool or documents case as soon as you can, so you can actually carry keys and key cards in your secure container. For the documents case, you can find it in marked rooms, buy it on the flea market, or trade therapist 1 lion, 1 cat, and 5 horse statues. For the key tool, you can also find it in the marked room, buy it on the flea market, or trade therapist 8 hydrogen peroxide, 6 saline solution, and 5 purified water, which is a pretty steep price tag. Both of these items are extremely useful if you want to carry keys though, so get one as soon as you feasibly can. Well, that about covers it for these 10 quick tips for getting ahead of the game once the wipe hits. If you've never been around at the start of a fresh server reset, it's definitely a fun and interesting time because everyone is on a level playing field, at least for a while. I hope you enjoyed the video and can use some of this advice to get off to a good start, loaded up with rubles and ready to build AKs and quest your way through the mid game. I'll be streaming more Escape from Tarkov on Twitch, and if you want to drop by the stream sometime, there's a link to that in the description. There's also links to my Twitter and Discord server down below, as well as a link to my Patreon page, which you can check out if you want to support the channel and let me commit more time to making content. Thanks for checking out the video. As always, feel free to leave any comments, corrections, or suggestions down below, and until next time, stay safe in Tarkov City.